in a tragic incident in Chennai. An 8-year-old child literally got run over by his own school bus inside the school campus. That would be our top focus at this hour. Very good evening. I am Afrida Rahman Ali. And no, we are not going to absolve this by saying that it's an inadvertent human error or an accident or unintentional. There can be no excuse for not putting a foolproof system in place when it comes to a child's safety. This is the kind of tragedy that happens when you fail to set basic systems in place. This is an 8-year-old we are talking about. They are restless, and this is the age where they become quite a handful, because really shame on us that we have failed to do so. It's not just about one child. It's not just about this incident happening in Chennai. It's been happening everywhere. Similar incident happened in 2012 in Tamil Nadu when the draft rules were framed for school transport. No lessons learned. It has happened again 10 years later. Criminal negligence, a lackluster attitude and complacency that sets in when it comes to children. And that is why we are angry today to see this happen yet again and to report about this painful incident. Let's listen in to my colleague Mogilan actually taking us through what happened on that spot.
Chennai police says that the bus driver and the bus caretaker has been arrested, and principal and correspondent has been booked by the Chennai police, and all four are being booked under the same section 304/2, and the inquiry is still underway with the caretaker, with the driver, principal and correspondent, is what we are hearing from the Chennai police. Educationists and activists demand that the negligence is the main reason for the incident like this, and the state government and the school education department should ensure that such incidents are not repeated in near future. And the matriculation school directorate also have sought a report from this particular private school to submit a report on actually what happened today by in the evening, is what we are hearing. And apart from that, the district education officer also today held an inquiry with the school staff regarding the incident.
Let me introduce my guests this evening. Advocate Anubha Srivastav Sahai, President of India White Parents Association. Dr. Sudha Acharya, National Progressive School Conference, from the National School Progressive Conference, joining us today. Also is Nayan Parekh, educationist. Now, before I go across to my guests who will give us perspectives on this entire incident, on the rules that are in place, I want to bring in my colleague Shaleen to take us through the guidelines, the Supreme Court guidelines that exist on the safety measures that should be in place ideally in school transport. Shaleen, take us through both the things. First, of course, the Supreme Court guidelines, and then the Motor Vehicles Act of the Tamil Nadu government that was passed in 2012, about 10 years ago. Over to you, Shaleen.
Absolutely, Afrida. The 8-year-old tragic death in Tamil Nadu has compelled us to take a relook at the existing guidelines for school buses. What is that foolproof system that we're talking about that the school buses are supposed to follow? First, quickly, let me take you through those points. It is mandatory for an attendant to be on the bus. Remember, we are talking about children. So as you spoke about hyperactivity, they are definitely filled with energy. You do need to have an attendant, a conductor on the bus, apart from the driver. Apart from that, the driver is supposed to carry a detailed list of students, the number of students who would be traveling on the bus. That list has to be with the driver. Apart from that, the KG students, they have to be picked up by authorized persons. So I remember as a kid, when I had to go from the classroom to the bus, I always had the conductor who would come up to the classroom and take the queue of the children in a queue right up to the bus. Apart from that, when you talk about authorized person, it's either your family member, my mother or my father would always wait at the halt point, waiting for me to alight from the bus. There has to be an authorized person to pick you up or drop you. Apart from that, we also looking at other rules like a mandatory first aid box on the bus. So of course, children are bound to fall, they're bound to get hurt. You need to have a first aid box. You also need to have a must for buses to have fire extinguisher in order to avoid any untoward incident. Fire extinguisher is also a must. bus doors to be fitted with reliable locks so that, you just don't leave those locks open, or you just don't leave those windows or doors open. They're supposed to be well fitted. And at the same time, you also need to have a cap on the number of children. For example, if the bus can seat about 12 children, you cannot overload the bus. You cannot have 20 children. You need to have a same number of, say, 18 to 20 children, so the bus cannot be overloaded. This is about what the Supreme Court guidelines are when it comes to running of school buses. Let's also take a look at what the Tamil Nadu's Motor Vehicle Act, which was introduced in 2012, what that act says is that the driver with less than 2 fines a year needs to be hired. So if the driver has been penalized with more than 2 fines, then he cannot be hired as a school bus driver. Apart from that, school buses cannot be overloaded. I spoke about this point in my earlier graphics as well, that you need to have a cap on the seating arrangement. Apart from that, the bus attendant needs to be between the age of 21 to 50 years. A very important point here, that there is an age protocol. You cannot be more than 50, you cannot be less than 21. At the same time, attendant to get down first at every halt point. Again, I remember at the entry and exit point of the bus, the conductor needs to be at the entry or exit point. The conductor needs to get down first, let the child get down, see that the child is picked up by an authorized person, and then the conductor gets back waiting at the exit point. So these are certain rules. Another more important rule here is that the attendant will be a woman if the bus is working for a girls' school. So if it's a girls' school, the attendant and the conductor will also be a woman. So this primarily sums up what the important rules are based on the Supreme Court guidelines, and also according to the Tamil Nadu Motor Vehicle Act. Back to you.
Shalin, thank you so much. But the problem is, yes, rules are in place. We've taken you through the rules, and you can see now that there has been a flagrant violation of the guidelines and rules at multiple levels. We'll talk about that. This is a tragedy of immense proportion, viewers, especially if you consider the fact that it has happened before. Laxity creeps in, and in the absence of checks and balances, this happens. What makes this a terrible tragedy is that this kind of a thing calls for stringent action, and often people get away. It's not enough to have rules on paper. What we see, like I said, is a wanton disregard for the guidelines, whether it's the Tamil Nadu Motor Vehicles Act of 2012 or the Supreme Court guidelines. In the end, it's the people, the person on the wheel, the attendant on duty, and of course the competent authority who's supposed to ensure that there are checks and balances. It is a matter of child safety, something that is so basic, and we have failed in this. As we just showed you the rules that are in place, it's not about one child and one family. This kind of incident shatters us all. Anubhaji, coming to you first, kisko zimmedar thehrayenge? Who should be held responsible?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me here. And it's a very tragic incident, and I'm really shocked to hear that that such incident happened inside the school premises.
Yes.
And that was really shocking. And there was no bus conductor, which is mandatory for all the school authorities to implement the Supreme Court guidelines. That the school bus...
There was a bus conductor, Anubhaji. There was a bus conductor. He did not do his job. He was supposed to get off, usher in the kids into the school. But
Absolutely.
he was not doing his job. That's how this happened. Yes, go ahead.
That's negligence on part of the bus conductor and bus driver also, who was driving the bus. And not only the bus authorities, even the school authorities are responsible, because it is the duty and responsibility of school management, school authorities also to implement the guidelines, transport guidelines, bus safety guidelines, which are in place and which are being directed by Honorable Supreme Court to have in place in each and every school. But the problem lies with the implementation part, and I would like to blame even the government, because governments are not doing anything. Be it not only this incident, I can see so many autos and buses are running, school buses are running around in each and every city. Overcrowded buses are going on, and auto rickshaws, children are flying in auto rickshaws, small buses also, which are overcrowded. Now, this incident which occurred is a really very tragic incident, and I think the culprit must be punished, and a strict action must be taken against the school authorities for the negligence, also against the transporter and even the bus conductor and bus driver. They all are responsible equally. And,
yes, as of
I'm
now,
really
they have
shocked.
been held, they have been arrested, but the problem is the complacency sets in again, doesn't it? This has happened before in the case, in 2012, which forced the Tamil Nadu government to make the draft rules for under the Tamil Nadu Motor Vehicles Act. Dr. Acharya, it is one thing, like we just heard Anubha Sahai said, it is one thing to frame rules. It's quite another to ensure that they are followed and implemented. After all, as parents, we trust the school, and this has happened inside a school campus. We trust our children and their safety, that the school is the safest place, and look what happens. Our children are at the mercy of the bus driver and attendant. Do you think that there is not enough thorough checks that is ensured in appointing the right people for these jobs? Just about anybody does this job of a school bus driver or a conductor?
No, I think we have complete safety protocols in place. In our school, we have a transport committee completely. And it's not only bus driver and conductor. There is a teacher in charge for every bus with both the parents' cell phone number, with blood group, with fast aid, with water facility. Even the bus driver and conductors are continuously trained by our doctor, parents, and fire department. So in this case, I don't understand how it happened, because up to primary classes, every child is accompanied by the support staff to the school building. They are handed over to the class teacher. Up to class 5, no child is unaccompanied inside the school premises. Once they get down from the bus, the teacher in charge makes sure that everybody is getting down, handing over to the support staff. They take them to their respective classes. This is our protocol. Another thing is that we have different I-cards, different colors, like school bus users, van users, and walkers. So how the child went back to collect his school bag, which he forgot, as far as I know the case.
Yes.
So in that case, if the child is forgetting something, the support staff and the teacher could have got it. How the child got into the bus again, was trying to get into the bus and collect his school bag. It is serious major lapses, and we do safety work also. Parents are involved in our transport committee. They get inside the box and they see everything, all protocols are followed. As your correspondent was saying, it is as per government 1.5 capacity of the school bus. Every child should get a seat to sit down properly. No child should travel standing up. And all these facilities are in place. And in between, we review all these committees also. This is a mandatory safety committee, safety guideline, which has been given by the court, and we follow it meticulously. So this is really, my heart goes out to the parents. Inside the school premises, if this thing happens, there is a major lapse, there is no doubt.
Yes, and how could such a lapse happen that it costs the life of a child? There are lapses. It happens, there are human errors, but not this kind. I mean, for the bus driver to back out, to reverse without ensuring that that his way is clear, without ensuring that there are no kids lurking around, clearly that is the height of being irresponsible. And what you mentioned, I'm going to tell our viewers here as well, that this happened because, like I said, it was a restless child who wanted to get back to the bus to get something that he forgot. Absolutely normal for an 8-year-old boy. I have a son myself. I know how they behave. They are fidgety, they are restless, they forget things. But should they be paying with their lives for that? The boy in this case allegedly left his belonging on the bus, went back to get it, unaware of the child's movements. The driver reversed the bus, caused the child to fall down. That is when he came under the wheels of the bus. The bus driver and the caretaker, like I said, has been arrested. But is that enough? The police has booked the school principal as well as the school correspondent. These are the two people, the competent authority who looks after the safety of children. They have been booked. But like I said, the larger questions, it's not about one school or one child or one city. This is an issue that we are discussing to actually ensure that there is a wake-up call. It should wake us up all to ensure that we cannot take chances when it comes to a child's safety. And therefore, I want to ask here again the other important questions here, Mr. Nayan Parekh. On July 25th, 2012, another child, Shruti, it happened in Tamil Nadu again, died in a similar way. That is when the Tamil Nadu government submitted the draft rules. So what it shows is it's become a cycle. Then there is a wake-up call, rules are framed, but over a period of time, the laxity creeps in. What do we do about this?
In fact, my daughter was studying about, I think this is 7-8 years before, and we are talking about Chennai, but in Ahmedabad, we had a similar incident, same thing. The child got crushed when the bus driver took it in reverse. So I feel this is not Chennai, this is not Ahmedabad, happens often. And I think when a child dies like this, I mean, something in all of us die at
Yes.
that moment. And I have a few suggestions as to how do we make this work. One is that we have made the rules. We have Supreme Court guidelines. How do we make it pakka? I think one is that we have a license. So motor vehicle license, there is LMV, which is light motor vehicle, HMV, which is heavy motor vehicle. Can we have SMV, which is school motor vehicle? And it happens in some of the countries where school drivers, bus drivers are specially trained, and they are trained times and again so that they know how to handle the child and how to handle the children, especially because they get down, they run fast, they at times miss or drop some article, and they get behind the bus at times where a driver cannot see. So how do we make some of our drivers very special, skilled drivers for handling children? And therefore, I feel that let there be SMV, and only children or only bus drivers who have SMV and they get renewed every 2 years, they can only drive. That is one. Second is, as to most of the schools outsource this transportation activity. Though you might have a committee, actual transportation is outsourced to some buswala transport guy who does it. And I feel that if there is an accident like this which happens, and we talked about 3 accidents, I think 2 by you in Chennai, I knew 1 in Ahmedabad, and there would be many more that we don't know about. In that case, can we provide for automatic cancellation of school license? Because finally committees are there, the bus drivers are there, but who's responsible? So I'm saying that if a child dies on your school premises by your school bus, no matter who is the transporter, the school's license should be suspended for a while. Second, can we do something more than this? Which means that we say that for 3 years, the school cannot work, or 5 years, or automatically it is kind of cancelled forever. What is the strictest action we can take? Because a child's life is lost and we can't take it easy that we have enough rules. How do we make it automatic that if you commit this kind of a crime, then your school can no longer run?
Yes, there must be.
Or the driver who did this, we have to cancel his driving license forever. How do we do that? And there are so many countries who do it well. I was in America, and I think they treat children so preciously. If there is a school bus where the children are getting down, then they are stopping all the traffic. We stopped up to the time there was red flickering light for the people to know that here the school children are getting down, and you have to be 10 feet away from that school bus. You just can't be there. So some other vehicle also may not run over those children. Children are also taught. We must also, though children are young, they are full of energy. At least in America, children are taught that they cannot cross a road or go behind the school bus. They cannot, if they go
No,
in
we
front
all
of
do
the
that,
school
sir.
bus,
As a parent, I can tell you,
10 feet
every
distance.
parent does that. I mean, there can be no bigger concern for a parent than the safety of a child. We do tell our children that be mindful of your step, but they are children. And like you said, deterrence must be set. There must be exemplary punishment. Heads must roll. Otherwise, no lessons will be learned. I'm afraid I'll have to leave it at that. But I thank you all for joining us here on this discussion, and thank you very much for all the valuable suggestions.